justice.
Welcome back to Payne in Politics. It's another opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about our elected and selected officials. This is not a time where we are trying to have endorsements of a candidate or of a particular party. It's an opportunity for us to learn more about the position, the power, and the purpose of our candidates in Southeast Texas. And I'm fortunate today to be joined by Carolyn Guidry, our county clerk. And I want to welcome you and glad to have you here. And if you could we just jump right in. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for having me. My name is Carolyn LeBlanc Guidry. I'm a resident, of course, of Jefferson County. I've been in Beaumont most of my life, all except 10 years, unfortunately. And I've been with the county clerk's office now 16 years. I was elected in October of 2004. And it has truly been my privilege to serve the citizens of Jefferson County.
Tell us a little bit about how you got here. I mean, I understand you run every 4 years?
Every 4 years, I run for the office. The first term that I ran was an unexpired term, and there was no incumbent at that time. And I was actually retiring from Southwestern Bell at the time, and I thought it was a good opportunity to have service to the people. And I just jumped right in. And so I've always been involved in the political realm. I believe in grassroots, getting out and knowing the people. I've done a lot of communications throughout my years through Southwestern Bell, a lot of service. And just jumped right in, feet first. And successful first round, 2 years. And I've ran 3 times since then. Always opposed. But that's a good sign that I keep getting reelected, so I must be doing something right.
Well, you know, it's funny because we talk a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit more as we go through the day, your position deals with a lot of administrative stuff, but you still have to run either as a Republican or a Democrat. Is that correct?
Yes, and I've never really understood that, but I guess you got to be somewhere on the ballot because my job has nothing to do with politics at all. In fact, I have to be nonpartisan, especially because I do the elections for the county. So my job is totally nonpartisan. Everybody comes in the office is treated the same as they should be. And but of course, in the primary election, you have to select somewhere to run. So I do run as a Democrat.
If someone had a problem in your department or had a problem with some decisions you would make, who would they say would be your boss?
Well, that's funny that you should say that. One time I had a disgruntled customer who wanted to report me to my boss. So he thought he was going up to the county judge to report me. So I had to inform him the county judge was not my boss. My boss is actually all the constituents of Jefferson County, all the voters of Jefferson County, which is how I get in the office. So I report to them. I am responsible to them. I am accountable to them. So my boss is all the constituents, all the voters of Jefferson County, Texas.
What does a county clerk do?
Wow.
What's the position of a county clerk? What do you do?
The county clerk, the official job is the official public record keeper of the county. We have records dating back to the incorporation of Jefferson County, which is like 1836.
Well, also, you know, I know when people get ready to get married, they seem to be in your neck of the woods.
Yes,
why is that the case?
That's a great service for us. We do the marriage license in my office, and I always say, we'll put them together, but if you want to get divorced, you got to go see the district clerk for that. That's where you get your divorces. Okay. But we do have the marriage license. We do the marriage license. They come in whether it's the standard marriage license or whether you're doing, it's called like a common law marriage license. You want to declare that you're married. We do have those as well. The biggest thing was 3 years ago, when they approved marriages for same sexes. We were inundated in our office with marriages at that time for marriage applications and stuff. So we've had a lot of changes since I've been there, but we just kind of go with legislation and make the changes necessary, make sure we adapt for the people of Jefferson County.
Now, I also know, because as a lawyer, that sometimes we have to file documents as far as filing lawsuits and things of that nature. There are sometimes you file those lawsuits in the district clerks, but there are sometimes you actually file them in your office. Is that right?
Right, that's correct. We have the county courts of law, which is the the courts just between the justice of the peace, which is called the People's Court, and the district courts. The cap to file in our course is like $200,000 if it's a civil case. We do have criminal cases, but all of ours are misdemeanors. When you get to the district courts, you're talking about felony cases.
Well, how big is your department?
Well, actually, I have a total of about 38 employees, and that is including my election department.
Well, I was getting ready to say, well, let's move to the election, because when people think about Carolyn Guidry, normally things that come to mind is elections.
Elections will make or break you.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your involvement and how you deal with the election process.
Well, of course, I am the elected official appointed by Commissioner's Court to do elections for the county. You know, there are options. I don't have to be the one to do it, but for some reason, the Commissioner's Court has appointed the county clerk to do elections.
Okay.
It could be the tax assessor. It could even be a county treasurer doing elections. But in Jefferson County, it is the county clerk. I'm the administrator of all the elections for the county, and that's for all of our elections, which were like the November elections, the general elections, and of course the Constitutional Amendment elections, and any special elections that's called by the commissioners or by the governor. I do the elections for the political subdivisions, but that's an option for me to do. But I do that because it helps us as a whole in Jefferson County.
So when you say you do the elections, and I get you've been appointed by, I guess, our Commissioner's Court to facilitate this process.
Right.
When we talk about you doing the elections, do you set up locations and times and all of those things?
Right. We have to make sure that we have adequate polling locations. There are requirements where they should be within each commissioner's precinct. No one commissioner can have more than the other one. Right now, all the commissioners, each commissioner has 10 polling locations. And that's because now we're vote centers. At one time, when I first got here, we had 125 voting locations. But that's because when I first got here, if you remember, you had to vote within your precinct only. On election day, if you were across town, it didn't matter. You had to get back to your particular precinct in order to vote.
A lot of people were confused by that.
Yes.
Because they didn't know where to go.
Well, and when they went to their precinct and they got there at the last minute, and they turned them around and say, well, you're not in the right precinct. You need to go back to your precinct. They would just get so disgusted till they wouldn't vote at all. So we disenfranchised people doing that. So I'm going to say at least about 8 years ago, they had a program going to implement vote centers. Vote centers are just like early voting locations. On election day, you can vote anywhere in your county as long as you're registered.
A voter registrar. Who's that? Registrar. Who's that in Jefferson County?
Our voter registrar, which is appointed by Commissioner's Court, also is Allison Getz at this time.
Okay. So Allison Getz is responsible for the voting data.
The database, all the
Okay.
database for the voters. That's correct.
And the reason why I asked that question, because a lot of times I've been at polls where someone didn't have their voter's registration card, or they didn't see their name on the list, and the first thing I heard was, well, we got to call Carolyn Guidry.
You're right. And all I can do is turn around and call their office because I don't control the database. I can only access what they have inputted.
Well, not too long ago, I just received my voter's registration card, and so I'll give that to you, because I noticed on the top of the card when I got it, and I knew we were getting ready to do this interview, your name wasn't listed at the top.
No, it should not be.
Because of what we just got through talking about.
Right. I'm not the voter registrar.
Okay.
I'm more of an election administrator.
Okay. Now, you talked about precincts earlier too. When you look on your voter's registration card, I looked at it in anticipation of us having this conversation. You can find out exactly what precinct you are in every aspect, from the United States Senate all the way down to the drainage district.
Exactly.
And that's reflected on this voter registration card.
Exactly. And all that information has to be correct. All of that is very, very important when you go vote. Because if any of that is wrong, it affects which ballot you get.
I have kids who are in college right now, and they all voted. They all registered to vote as soon as they turned 18, but they're off in college. So how do they participate in the process now
Oh,
that
well,
they're off
they
in college?
qualify for a mail ballot. Anytime you're outside the county and not able to be here for an election, you qualify for a ballot because you're absent from the county. And as long as you have an address to mail it to that's not a Jefferson County address, we can mail that ballot to you. We send a lot of mail ballots to college students.
You can actually go online and do this.
Absolutely. You can go online and submit your application. We still have to have the original, though.
Right.
And then we will mail the ballot to the address outside the county they provide to us. First, they provide the address where they're actually registered, which would be your residence, and then they provide a mail to that is outside the county, and we will send that ballot to them.
You've told us a whole lot about the position, and I kind of want to shift a little bit about to the purpose of a county clerk. Uh, Obviously, the repository of documents critical. Do you have any involvement? Well, let me ask it this way: what is the relationship between your job and, at this point, Mrs. Getz's job in relationship to elections? Is there a crossover?
Well, we have to work together. We have to make sure that, her database is good. If we see any errors, we try to work with them to correct database. There have been, errors in the past, and I can't say who fault it is, but sometimes people addresses get crossed. We've had voters in the same household with two different precincts. Uh, Human error. You're going to always have some human error, but the whole thing is being able to work together to correct these mistakes so that the voters are not disenfranchised.
Is it one of those times where you feel some obligation to make sure we get as many people voting as possible?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's been my main focus as being an election administrator, is to make sure that we are not disenfranchised when we go to the polls, to place more people, more qualified people, more friendly people at the polling location. Because, even at one time walking to the county clerk's office, people would be intimidated because you would only see one person that looked like me. So now I think the people that we have working the polls, we have a very diverse group, both backgrounds, Democrat and Republicans. I stress the fact that they must be friendly to everybody come there, because this is how I run my office, and we're not going to disenfranchise people regardless of who they are.
Awesome.
So I make sure that I control the polling locations as I should do. That is my job, to make sure that everybody that goes to vote is comfortable and know what they're doing and get the assistance that they need when they get there.
Well, you bring that up because, I guess when you started, maybe it wasn't when you started. We've gone to now a electronic voting.
Yeah.
Was that under your watch as well?
Well, we went to electronic. My first day on the job actually was the first day of the general election in 2004. We were on punch cards. Thank God we did away with that. And it was the very next election we went to electronic voting. We started off with ES&S, and now we're on the Hart system.
How do you teach people how to use this system
Well,
of
we
the
have
polling?
classes, and we also have it on our website. If you go to the website, it will just show you how to move around and rotate in the system and get to the ballot screen.
And just so that we're clear, the website is www.jeffersonelections.com.
That's correct.
Now, again, purpose-wise, you want to make sure everyone votes, and we're comfortable using the voting process, not disenfranchised by any experience or things of that nature. But the critical thing is making sure the vote counts, that we've got
Absolutely.
accurate votes. How do you facilitate that from taking
Well, of
place?
course, none of our systems are connected to the internet. The only thing that's connected to the internet is our poll pass, which is a voter registration database. And we have to, because we have vote centers, so we have to be real time. We have to know that a voter is not going to leave one polling location and go to another polling location and vote again. So we have to be real time on that. So only the poll pads are connected to the internet. None of the voting equipment itself is connected to the internet. So the voting machines itself have a backup. It has a card that's brought to the counting station. We don't transmit anything via the internet. Every polling location, the judge and the co-judge jointly together at the end of the night bring their equipment and their media data that's tabulated to the barn. And that's how we tabulate.
You said the barn.
The barn, our counting station facility,
Okay.
which is on Bitterbow. We count for every vote, whether it's a no vote or undervote. We can account for every vote that was placed on one of those e-slate machines.
Now, let me ask you something, because there are times, I think we're going to have even in this upcoming primary, where there will be some people that are seeking office that don't have any opposition. They're
Right.
uncontested. What do you say about the necessity for voting? Does that happen, or what happens to that?
Well, can I give you my personal opinion on
Sure.
that? What I do is that if somebody is worthy of my vote, then I cast my vote. But by the same token, if they are not worthy of my vote, a no vote sends a message to that person in that office. And maybe we need to hold all of our elected officials accountable and not just give them our votes. They need to be earning our votes. So it just depends on how that voter feels and what they want to do with their vote, because your vote is precious. It is to me, and I don't take it for granted. I don't take the votes that I receive when I'm on the ballot for granted. Because if somebody takes the time to go and just turn that little wheel for me, it's a privilege, and I am honored by that.
I want to move now from we talked about the position and the purpose. I really want to kind of talk about the power at this point, particularly as it relates to your job. We talked that you had a budget, and do you know the budget amount?
Yeah, about 2.7 million, $2.6 million budgeted for me each year.
And of that $2.6 million budget, what is the bulk of that for?
Uh, well, the bulk of it probably is salaries.
Okay.
Yeah, probably salaries, and then of course I have a probably a large expense like for my imaging system and stuff. I actually have a records and management account that we collect so many dollars off of each document that we file. Goes into either records management or records archive. Those are special accounts, but that is not a part of the budget that the commissioners court set.
It sounds like most of your job is really administrative, or basically handling a business or operation.
It is. It is. It's a lot of administration on my part. Thank God I have good people that does the rest of the work when it comes to going to the courts, filing all the documents, things like that. But I basically stay mostly on top of the administration part, making sure we stay in our budget, making sure that we have everything we need access to, all the tools and supplies. I try to make sure that my people stay trained and up to date on legislation. Legislation change. We cry every time they have a session in, because we know the county clerk have more bills than any other department in county government.
And with the change of legislation, it changes the way you operate.
It changes something within we operate. Between the county clerk's office and the election department, there are more bills for us than any other department within county government.
So, give me one of, I guess, a couple of questions you generally get that are just really outside of your authority that people always think, I need to call Carolyn Guidry on this.
I'm trying to think. You put me on the spot now. I don't know. I guess mostly they'll call. Sometimes people want us to answer legal questions, and we have to tell them that we're not attorneys. We cannot answer legal questions. And they'll just say, well, so and so did this. Just tell me how to do it. I can't tell you what to do it, but I try to get my employees to give them examples of things that we might already have in our database. But we always have to explain to them that we're not attorneys. We can't tell you what to do. We can't tell you what's wrong. And most of the things that we get that we have to reject, like because of notarization and things like that, uh, they don't like it. But we have standards that we have to follow in order to accept the document. There are certain requirements for us to be able to accept certain documents. We've even had to argue with lawyers at times. Can you believe that?
I cannot. I cannot.
But y'all know everything. We don't. But when it comes to filing requirements, we do know those. And but basically, that's pretty much it. We don't have a whole lot of hassle with a whole lot of people. I thank God that we have some resources available that we can give them guidelines and examples without giving them legal advice. Because, for instance, after the hurricanes and Harvey, and I'm sure you know this, there are so many people where property never gets changed. And you cannot get no help with deeds not being in your name. So we would try to point people in the right direction. Hey, you need to go get an attorney, or you need to figure out how to do affidavit of heirship, or you need to figure out how you're going to get this property in your name because you need to go through certain steps. So um, it's been a learning experience for me. I want to tell you that it's been a very
Well, and I guess my last thing is what does a county clerk do for fun?
Oh, well, I have a grandson now.
Okay,
He's
awesome.
18 months old. So what I do, I go to Houston at least once a week, see my grandbaby, and that's the most fun I've had lately. And I get away every now and then. I haven't been able to get away very much, but I'm looking forward to having some time for Carolyn. But elections keep us going year round because if it's not ours, it's the cities, it's the school districts, it's the drainage districts.
It's the high school now.
Yeah, the high schools, whatever. I mean, we're here. So it's kind of hard just to get away. I haven't had a real vacation since I got to the county.
Well, let me just say on behalf of the county, thank you for your service. I
Oh,
appreciate you,
thank
and I
you.
appreciate you being here
Absolutely.
as we focus on trying to learn more about our elected and selected officials, particularly their position, their power, and their purpose. I thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you in the next segment of Payne in Politics.
You're welcome.